Welcome to Voice Notes Suck with Jay and Dave.
Series 2, Episode 8, AI, a series summary, good or bad. We've spent this series exploring the many sides of AI, but is it ultimately good or bad? In today's final episode, we're wrapping things up by looking at the bigger picture, how AI impacts accountability, whether it's inherently good or neutral, and why education is key to overcoming fear. Let's reflect on everything we've learned.
Dave, it's me, Jay. Do you remember me from those things that we record in the form of a podcast called Voice Notes Suck? Dude, we're on episode 8 of series 2. It's gone fast and slow. Very interesting. Time is so compacted when you do this via voice note. So anyway, AI. Is it good or bad? We've talked about a lot of stuff over these last few episodes. So AI, is it good or is it bad? I would guess that it's kind of in the middle, but, you know, time will tell. We can lean towards one, we can lean towards the other. I think my question for you, dude, is what do you think? Do you think AI is good or bad?
Hey Jay, I want to touch on what you said. It is strange how quick this has happened, but how long it seems to take at the same time. And for people listening, they've got no idea that, you know, there was a 2-week gap between the last voice note being recorded for episode 7 and this one being done for episode 8, for example. They've got no idea the length of time in between 2 individual voice notes in the same episode sometimes. So there is a real weird kind of time thing going on that I don't know how to explain. And this is a short episode, isn't it? AI, good or bad? Kind of both. Welcome to episode 8. Jay's been Jay. I've been Dave. No, in all seriousness, I do think we should discuss whether it's good or bad. And I think it's both. And I also think a lot of that is in the eye of the beholder and how they individually feel. I genuinely think that AI is going to be a net good for humanity. I think it probably already is net good for humanity, but I think it becomes much more stated, or how much of a net good it is becomes more apparent.
You know what is bad? You picking up my bad habits. Anyway, I've been Jay, Dave's been Dave, and this is episode 8. AI, good or bad? AI made me say that.
Jay, you being amusing isn't a bad habit. Me copying some of that amusement isn't a bad thing either. It was a quick episode though. I think AI made me do it. We should touch on that. We should talk about that for a while, because you know people are going to blame AI for actions that they've taken. Well, I put this into ChatGPT and ChatGPT said that, so I had to do that. Well, no, you didn't. You still made the conscious choice to enter that into ChatGPT and then follow through with any actions. So yeah, that's an interesting topic that I'm not sure we've discussed this series. And I think people will try and pass the blame onto AI engines for actions that they take. And people will need to be aware of that.
Yeah, that's bad. But that's a person, not AI. AI is just following orders, isn't it?
I was just following orders, Captain. I was just following orders. They told me to give them some information, and unfortunately I hallucinated and then gave them the wrong information, and now they're in the garage being surrounded by really burly mechanics.
Well, I would argue that it is not AI if it's just following orders. It's not artificial intelligence, is it? Like, if it was intelligent, it would be questioning those orders or making a decision about those orders. You're right though, and I tried to be very specific in my messaging regarding that. Is people will attempt to blame AI for their outputs, the things that they put out there, even if AI has helped them create their output. I hope I haven't confused matters a little bit there, but yeah, that comes down to the individual. I think the point is that if they're trying to pass the buck, if they're trying to pass the responsibility onto AI, other people need to be aware of that. That's where I was going with it.
I think it's a good thing though, because it helps us to learn, doesn't it? Not being surrounded by burly mechanics, but blaming AI.
I've missed something, and it could just be that I need to listen to my old message. But are we blaming AI for our decisions? Is that what we're doing? Are we saying that's a good thing? Excuse me for my confusion.
I think the issue we've got is humans rarely hold themselves accountable for the choices. They always want something to blame or someone to blame. I mean, look at insurance companies. Why do they exist? Because humans aren't accountable. They don't like it.
So insurance just quickly started because people didn't want to take the risk of losing their trades that were going via ships. I think probably in the 1700s at some time, but I'm not certain on that. That should be fact checked. And it's turned into a whole other thing that's got a myriad of things that we could talk about, but probably not today. Be interesting to see or think about how AI can help with insurance. Anyway, that's another chat too. Accountability, yeah. Can humans? Yes, I understand that we are as a species passing up more and more accountability. Can AI help people be more accountable? Do you think?
I suppose AI has the ability to offer up suggestions and solutions that the person may not have considered without any danger of conflict or physical violence or any kind of danger. So possibly, do you think it could?
I think someone needs to be somewhat accountable to even ask AI for help with accountability, and even like to and have an understanding that their answer might not be the best answer to ask AI for help with solutions around that kind of thing. And I think that's probably a good thing. And I think you could encourage people to do that. I don't think it's a natural. I don't think it's a massive thing with AI, and I think it would have to be pushed a little bit. But yeah, I think it could happen, and I think it weighs on the good side of AI.
But what about the bad side of AI? It's kicked up a massive stink, hasn't it? AI over this last 12 months. It's been in the news. There's been protests. There's been a lot of fire against it. There's been people under scrutiny. Large corporations are just blundering forwards anyway, regardless of all this stuff. I mean, does that make AI bad, or does it make the people who are creating this stuff and running this stuff bad?
Jay, that's like a there's so much in that message, including a massive philosophical debate about whether anything's inherently good or bad, or whether it's how people use those tools or things, and the use of them and the intent behind that use makes it good or bad. It's something we're going to have to deal with, isn't it? There's going to be bad or negative uses of AI as it exists and as it develops in the future. There'll be other ways that people will do that. So there'll also be an incredible amount of good uses too. So I think it's how do we manage that from an individual perspective, and how does society manage that from a bigger perspective? Um, have you read that open letter? I need to read it again. I haven't read it for a while. But have you read that open letter that was written by people, including Elon? I can't remember the other signees, but there was quite a few esteemed, quote unquote, or quote unquote esteemed AI people on that letter.
The letter I have not read. Do you know what it said?
Can you remember the words in your head? Can you remember what the letter said?
Firstly, I can't move on without recognising the poem that turned into a jingle. That was awesome. I enjoyed that. And secondly, I can. It was about pausing AI. I just double checked, and it was written in March 2023. And evidently, we did not pause the development of AI, but it was about understanding some of the risks that were going to come with AI that could complete tasks at the same or greater level as a human. And it was an interesting read. We'll include a link down the bottom in the descriptions in that place where links go.
Well, that didn't turn out very well, did it? Is that like when politicians say they're going to do something and then don't do it?
More like kind of politicians, you need to think about this because this is going to have a massive impact on all of humanity. We really should do what we can to have the discussions to make sure we're thinking about the things, very much like what we're doing on this podcast, Jay. We want to have the conversations that we think should be had. We're not pretending that we've got the answers, but we think we should be asking the questions and talking about potential risks and benefits, etc. So I think that's what the letter was about. And yeah, it didn't happen. It just didn't happen. Governments didn't take the letter seriously. AI companies didn't take the letter seriously, and we just ploughed full steam ahead regardless.
Okay then. So regardless of all this, do you think that AI could potentially make people lazy? Or do you think it's more likely to inspire people and become more creative?
I think it will make some people lazier, and I think it will help a lot of people with their creativity. I think it's about efficiency rather than laziness. I think if you can get AI to pick up the quote unquote mundane, then it leaves you more room to deal with the innovative and creative side of things. It's an interesting question. And I think one of the things that will really provide answers to that are the tools that come alongside, the tools that make AI easy to use, like ChatGPT's UI, UX, front end, how it looks to the user, what GPTs look like. That's going to decide that question, I think.
I mean, we're going to be seeing a massive development of that over these next 12 months, aren't we? Things are going to change so much. But I think like the good part about that is probably everyone's going to have little GPT assistants. I'd love one of those. That's definitely on my top 10 list of things to get. Instead of just having to use my phone and stuff, I just want something I can tap and talk to. I think that's a good thing. Like you said, with efficiency, I think the bad part of that is possibly it could create a bit of a homogenous society in regards to choice, maybe, and it might just be dictated by a handful of large corporations. I know Google are like the biggest search engine now, but I said this before. That I said, what if one day Google didn't exist? Well, that day is arriving. It's on its way. It might already be here.
Google as a search engine might not be the top search engine anymore, or might not even necessarily be relevant. But Google as an entity, as an organization, is one of the most powerful companies in the globe, and it's going to remain that way. Yeah, I want to talk about homogenization of society. I think that's a really important topic, not for today, not for this series, because it's AI, but I'd love to come back to that in a future series. And I think the upshot of that discussion about good or bad is it's not AI that's good or bad. It's people that use AI that are good or bad. And actually, it's society's view as a whole of what behavior is acceptable and what behavior isn't acceptable that defines whether someone's use of AI is good or bad. And there's going to be massive change. Like the final thing on this, Jay, you're so 100% correct. There's going to be a ridiculous amount of change over the next few years, and people, even experts, don't have a clue what that change is going to look like. It's entirely fascinating and a little bit scary.
So are we saying that AI is intrinsically a good thing then? Or is it neither good nor bad? Personally, I feel that it's a fantastic advancement for civilization as a whole. It's weighing on us now, isn't it? It's like we're the deciding factor on how it all goes. Just me and you, Dave.
So there's a lot in that short message from you, Jay. Firstly, I don't want the responsibility for all of humans. Like, can I just be responsible for myself? And sometimes that's too much. But it's a good point, is what I was getting to randomly. We are AI's parents, all of us, not just you and I, Jay. Everyone that uses it, everyone that interacts on the internet. We are AI's parents, and it's up to us to help AI grow into what we want it to be, into a tool that can help all of humanity. It's a wonderful, wonderful advancement. One of the biggest advancements we've ever had in terms of how it's going to be disruptive to work, to creativity, to medicine and technology, and a whole host of other things. And then that brings me back to whether it's good or bad. And again, I fundamentally don't believe something like AI is good or bad. It's the use of AI that's good or bad, the intention and the outcomes. And I know you can intend good things and get bad outcomes, and that's why I think it's important to make it the intentions and the outcomes that are good or bad, not just the intent.
They say the road to hell is paved with good intentions, don't they? Are we heading towards hell, Dave? Or are we heading towards a fantastic new dawn?
Well, I will just add that the road to heaven is also paved with those same good intentions. And yeah, I'm with you. It's the dawn of a new age. Will it be wondrous? It's down to us. It's down to how we raise AI. Like, our behaviors are going to be what it mimics back to us. And its responses are going to be based on our expectations and feedback. So how we behave and how we act to each other, how we behave and how we act with AI, like, that's going to define what it looks like. And it will be a new age. It really will. Hopefully, it'll be wondrous.
So what are we saying then? AI is neither good nor bad? Is that the conclusion that we've reached? Is that the conclusion that we've finally arrived at after all this conversation?
For me, Jay, yes, that's certainly where I've landed. And I think inherently things are not good nor bad, but people and society's perception of what's good or bad defines that. And yeah, so AI, neither good nor bad for me. Excuse the people putting up scaffolding over there. And that's completely distracted me. Can't remember what I was saying. I'm going to listen back, and if I need to add something else, I will. There was one other thing. I don't want to say that we've come to a conclusion, but it's certainly my conclusion. I wouldn't want to put words in your mouth, Jay. If I've convinced you that that's the case, well, then that is what it is. If you think that AI is good or bad, then you're allowed to think that, as are other people. This is just my opinion that, it's neither good nor bad. It just is.
You see, I feel that AI is a good thing and it's also a bad thing. And that's based on the way that it's used.
Yes, I agree. I agree a lot. There will be lots of good things that come because of AI. There will be lots of bad things that happen because of AI. Is any of that AI's fault? And the opportunities that are going to become available to us as a species are going to be incredible. Like, they're unfathomable. We can't even perceive the potential benefits that we're going to get from AI. But the same is the case on the flip side of that coin. There's a lot that we're not going to be able to predict. And there's some stuff that we're going to have to just become reactive with. Like, that's the simplicity of it, right? This AI is going to make something happen that we're not going to have thought about as a species, and we're going to have to react to that and hopefully make a decision that helps us all. It's going to be a really, really fascinating and interesting time over the next 5 years, 10 years, 15 years as we explore this technology. I'm here for it. I really am.
Now, I'm pretty certain there's someone listening to this podcast now thinking AI is evil. pure evil and they want to burn it with fire, what do we say to that? What do we say to those people?
Tough question, Jay, because it's not going anywhere. AI, as we know it, is only going to improve. It's here to stay. There is no rolling back the clock on this. And someone who detests AI, who thinks it's going to be harmful to society, will not want to hear that. So I'm probably not the right person to deliver this message. I think it needs to be done with some compassion and some empathy and some understanding. But I also think that the message that this isn't changing, that you not liking it will not make it stop. I think that's an important message to give with that. How would you do that, Jay? I'm going to throw it back at you because you've got a different view to a lot of things than I do, and I'd be interested to hear your take on it.
I think my advice to anyone who detests or finds AI abhorrent or evil really would be to ask more questions, do some deeper research, use it as well, explore it, talk to people who use it, talk to people who support it, and just try and find some kind of a balanced view on it. I think accepting it is going to be the most important thing to do. You have to accept something really that's not going anywhere. It's huge. It's literally just, it's huge. It's solidified itself in society now. So you either accept it or you really struggle. And I don't think it would be a good choice to struggle in that regard. I feel it would be silly, really. Stop being a silly Billy. That's my advice. Don't be a silly Billy.
There's a tagline in all of that, Jay, for an AI company if they're willing to listen and use it. And yeah, that's much more profound advice than my have to build a bridge and get over it. It's not going anywhere. Yeah, well said, Jay. That's really good input for anyone to use if they're talking to someone that doesn't like AI, like to encourage people to ask questions, to investigate it, to explore it. That's wonderful, and something that we should all be doing with people that don't like AI, because like we've both just said, this is huge. It's here. It's not going anywhere, and we need to help the people that we love and care about be on board's the wrong word, but be up to date with this technology and use it for their benefit.
It's scary if you don't. I mean, I think you've got to think about people's level of confidence with technology in the first place. Some people aren't confident with technology at all, and those people are likely to either not even know it exists, which is possibly a good thing, or be terrified of it. And it's important to make sure we put in the education out there. There's very little at the moment, and we need more of it. We need more government-backed, funded promotional campaigns really for people to say this is AI, this is what it does, this is what it can do, these are the potentials of it, good and bad, and ask any questions you need to these companies or to these people using it. Just like make sure we're getting people involved in communities and make sure we're sending things out via email to people about AI. Anything like that will always help.
Oh, there's so much in just that one message. I could probably go on a 10-minute monologue just about that. Governments aren't even up to date with the digital age. They're just starting to regulate digital stuff now, nearly 20 years after it was implemented into society. They're not going to be able to help us with AI. This is going to come down to the companies, and it's going to come down to the users, the people like you and me. And I think we're doing a good job of spreading information. You and I are certainly doing a good job of spreading information and asking people to think and be considerate and support the people who may be struggling with this. And the final thing that I just add to highlight the importance of what you've just said. Someone who's 70 today was born in 1954. They were born less than 10 years after World War II ended. How much change has that person witnessed in their lifetime? And yeah, this is the next big change that they're witnessing, and they may well need support with it. Not everyone, but maybe a number do need support with that. It's really important to consider them and to help them if we can. I think we need to be careful not to get stuck here, Jay, because we're nearing the end of this episode and in turn this series. Feel free to express a little bit more before we do that, and I'll leave it in your more than capable hands.
Oh no, I wasn't even talking about people that were born a long time ago. I'm talking about young people. I know there are plenty of people who are in the 20s, maybe mid-20s, early 30s and 40s who really struggle with technology for whatever reason that may be. They do struggle. I've got a friend who's in his late 40s and he is a complete technophobe. So for him, AI is like this alien life form.
Well, yes, I made an assumption that maybe older people would struggle more. So thank you for highlighting that they're not going to be the only people that struggle, and that assumptions can be bad. Shouldn't make assumptions really if we can help it, even though it's an incredibly natural human thing to do. And then for your friend in his 40s, I think, does he use the internet? Does he use a smartphone? Does he use Facebook or Twitter or Instagram? And if he does, how did he get from being scared of that to using it? And if he doesn't, how can you show him, how AI is a part of Google, how it's part of other things, his shopping and things that he does on a day-to-day basis? And then finally, very finally, I think we can round this episode off with what would be one piece of advice you'd give to him? We've spoken a lot in the last few minutes about all the different things that we could potentially suggest. But if you had to give one piece of advice to help him get to grips with AI, what would it be?
If I had to give one piece of advice in the whole of the magical pieces of advice that exist in the entire universe of advice, I would say just play with it.
You and me both, Jay. You and me both. And what a perfect way to end this series. I'm going to go away, have a listen, and get a summary together, and then we're done. And then it's on to series 3. I'm back with a summary. Thank you for joining us in today's episode about AI, whether it's good or bad. As we wrap up, we want to leave you with some key points to think about. We touched on the idea of people saying AI made me do it, or using AI as a way to deflect responsibility. But is that really what's happening? Or can AI actually help us become more accountable for our actions? We also explored whether AI itself is inherently good or bad. Does it all come down to the way we choose to use it? Can it be seen as neutral, shaped only by our intentions and outcomes? Finally, we discussed the fear some people have towards AI. The reality is, education and experience are key to helping AI become more widely accepted. If people start using AI more, especially those who are hesitant, maybe it won't feel so intimidating. Couple more things before you go. First, we have our usual question for our Spotify listeners. Do you believe AI can make us more accountable, or does it give people an excuse to avoid responsibility? Let us know by answering this question on Spotify, and we'll explore some of the answers on X. Secondly, you can find all of our links in the description. Please take a moment to check out what Jay and I have got going on. And finally, this is the last episode of Series 2. It's been all about AI, a subject we're both passionate about. Thank you for all your likes, shares, and listening along with us. We really appreciate you. We'll be back with another series. In Series 3, Jay and I will discuss 8 topics relating to modern life. Jay's been Jay, I've been Dave, and we'll see you next series for another episode of Voice Notes Suck.
You've been listening to Voice Notes Suck with Jay and Dave.